Hey, it's me, and I am back with another incredible episode of Entrepreneurial Thinkers. Today, we dive into a conversation that I think every one of us can relate to. Do you love ice cream? And if you love ice cream like I do, more ice cream is better. I was joined by the two young founders of this company, Swee Creamery from Portugal, as we discussed their serendipitous, almost accidental entrepreneurial journey in Portugal and how they have grown this company by just waking up every day, as all entrepreneurs should, and thinking first and foremost about what can we sell today and who are we selling it to? How do we understand our consumers, our audience, our loyal fans, and how can we deliver a great, tasty, sweet, great product that is also healthy for you? Because this product falls into the better for you category of vegan, gluten-free, non-dairy, low sugar, et cetera, et cetera. So the Swee Creamery team joined me from Lisbon, Portugal, and we're going to talk to you about how they got here to the United States and how they have thought entrepreneurially about this journey. So you are not going to want to miss this. And I got to go now because I got to go scoop and enjoy some of this ice cream. Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. As you know, this is the show where I get to have weekly conversations with the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry. And today, literally across the pond, across the Atlantic, as we come together to try and leave this world a little bit better than we found it. So today we are super excited, and there's a whole kind of serendipitous story that we will talk about as we get into the show. But we are super excited. I am super excited to be joined by Diogo Valente and Tiago Rebelo, the founders of Swee, which is the Portuguese founded alternative desserts and food company. In fact, while we're recording this episode, I'm waiting for a knock on my door because I'm about to get some of their amazing Swee products delivered to me. So that's going to be a good rest of my day no matter what. But first, before we meet these guys, let me tell you a little bit about them. So more than just co-founders of Swee, Diogo and Tiago are two friends driven by purpose, resilience, and a love for life's simple joys. They turn their passion for fitness and health into a mission to create indulgent yet guilt-free vegan ice creams. But their story goes beyond the business. Diogo's creative energy that shines in branding and connecting with people and building relationships, while Tiago's determination to learn and grow fuels their journey. Together, they've faced all the normal entrepreneurial setbacks, they've celebrated every small win, and they've stayed grounded by prioritizing balance while expanding the company globally. These two young men are reimagining our indulgences with their vegan ice creams that are 90% less sugar and 100% more delicious. What started as a mission to combine health and taste during the pandemic has grown into a brand redefining dessert. Their journey from perfecting creamy textures to cracking the US markets at some of our most famous high-end fancy grocery stores and markets is packed with lessons of resilience, creativity, and turning challenges into opportunities. From decadent flavors to building a brand that inspires balance, these Forbes 30 under 30 entrepreneurs are proving that you truly can have your sweet treats and eat them too. Diogo, Tiago, welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers, guys. It's great to have this conversation.
Hey, Rob, thank you so much for having us. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much for that.
I am going to apologize in advance. I inevitably am going to either mispronounce or mix up both Diogo and Tiago today for a very specific reason. So in my personal life, I'm a huge football and, or as we say in the US, soccer fan. Mm-hmm. And in particular, in the world of club soccer, I'm a Liverpool fan through and through. And so ironically,
Diogo
Jota, right? And so in my mind, I keep taking the A from Jota and I keep putting it in your name, right? And then the last couple of years, we had Tiago from Spain.
Yeah.
Right. And so literally, as I'm reading your names off my script, I'm picturing Diogo Jota, who's an absolute poacher, like scoring a goal for us, right? and I'm mixing it all up. So I apologize if I mix you guys in action today.
No, that's all right.
The end lesson is that it's the awesome flavor, it's the magical flavor of Diogo V and Tiago R that is mixed together that has created Swee. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the beauty of this. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. And I want to jump in right away and just ask you kind of the obvious question, right? So here I sit in Los Angeles. Your team from Portugal has already arranged to have some of your products delivered to me today, which is I'm grateful for. It's going to be fun to eat them and enjoy them. But I got to ask, right? Like, how did two young guys in Portugal, kind of during the pandemic era, decide that the world needed more non-dairy sweet treats, and then wind up a few years later with products on the shelves of massive U.S. grocery stores like Whole Foods, or I'm not sure if you're in Erewhon yet or you're on the way to being on Erewhon, but I'm sure you
We are
will be in
trying.
Erewhon at
We
some
are
point, right? Like,
trying. We are trying.
Hopefully, yeah.
tell us that story. How does that happen?
So I will start with that. So hello, Rob. So we met at the story is actually very funny because me and Tiago met at the gym. So we met at the gym, and he was working out and doing some pull-ups, and I just saw Tiago first day, like 5 minutes after I saw him, I went to Tiago and I said, "Hey, can I train with you?" And he was like, "Okay, I guess so." Okay, I'm Diogo, and he said, "I'm Tiago," and until today, we became a very good friends. So we started actually in the healthy and fitness world by creating an event. So we met in 2018, and we didn't have any money to start a business. So we decided that doing an event is the best way to start a business around one thing because brands pay us upfront and we pay to the utilities and to produce an event afterwards. So we started with that event in 2019. It was amazing, and in 2020 the plans were to scale up the event to make it bigger with more brands in the wider space, everything. And then COVID hit, and we went out of business.
Okay.
Okay, so we had two solutions. The first one was to close the company, and the second one was to trying to do another thing. Okay,
Sure.
like live to another thing. And we were thinking, and looking backwards, it's very funny to this so genuine thought. Like we had two certains about life and about the world in that moment. Like the first one in March of 2020, we didn't know what the hell is going to happen.
Right. None of us did.
Everybody no. And the second one is that supermarkets will not close because if supermarkets close, everything is going to crush. Yeah, everything is going to crash. So we went to the supermarket because we thought, okay, if we want to stay alive in the business and in
There's
the
something in
entrepreneurship
here.
world,
Like you're
we
literally like
need to
there's
be in the supermarket. We need to create something for
wow.
the supermarkets because that's the only certain that we have that will not close. It will not happen. Everything. So, and we were in Portugal back in the day. We were in Portugal and we were thinking about what can we do, and we saw a very specific thing that when we think about a CPG brand, actually the first word that comes with the term is consumer, and consumer is branding, marketing. And we thought, okay, so if we want to create a CPG product, we need to create a brand. And brand is emotions, is feeling, are it's something so subjective that we need to create something, and we need to connect it with a product, with a physical product that as long as you see it by the first second, you can feel things. And if you think about it, from all the products in the supermarket, the ice cream is the product with a wider range, with the widest range of emotions. Because of emotions. Why? Because today you are with your favorite person, girlfriend, boyfriend, and you go for a walk on the beach and you enjoy an ice cream because you are fulfilling your emotions of your true relationship. But if in that same day you find out that your boyfriend or your girlfriend is cheating you with a Tinder profile, you cry and you watch a Netflix show, eating a full pint of ice cream. You're like,
Right.
whoa, what happened to our lives? So we thought it like, okay, so if we want to create a brand and if you want to connect with people, ice cream is the best way to do it because everybody likes ice cream. So okay.
Wow.
And why this type of product? Because we were very enthusiasts of the fitness and the health, and we thought that every time you enjoy an ice cream, you always sacrifice on one of three segments, or you buy the cheapest ice cream on the market, but it doesn't have a very good taste and doesn't taste like nothing, or you go to the very indulgent brands and you have like all the flavor, all indulgence, but then you have diabetes on a spoon,
Right, exactly.
or you go to the more natural and healthy products, but they are boring. They don't taste as good as they seem to taste, okay? And they don't deliver the experience of enjoying a really good ice cream because ice cream is a product that the best way to describe an ice cream product is not when you are happy, but when you are sad, because
Sure.
that's when you truly need it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we started Sweet.
You know, it's fascinating. I don't know if you guys got this little information when we first met your team, but so I'm 56, and it was around 52, which ironically was also around the beginning of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when I discovered that I was lactose intolerant. Right. And so I had spent my entire life, and I'm from a particular part of the country here in the U.S., the Midwest, Chicago, which is kind of known for its like big hearty people who love to eat, and we don't necessarily eat great and all that kind of stuff. Even though I've lived here in Southern California for almost 30 years now, and so I basically spent my entire life, picture from birth to 52, eating ice cream for all those reasons that you just described, for every celebratory moment, for every bonding moment with my now 31-year-old daughter, right, when she was a little girl, et cetera. But then also for every commisseratory, every sad, every reflective, stressful, anxious moment as well. And so at 52, I suddenly figured out, oh gosh, like I can't eat this thing that has been a part of my, like a character in my life. I can't eat it. And I was very naive, like, because I didn't understand that there was a world of alternative products. I didn't understand that there was a world inside of that world that was like good ones versus bad ones, like healthier ones that taste like shit, but but more indulgent ones which aren't really healthy and like aren't really
Yes.
alternative. And I didn't understand, so I kind of had to go on a journey for about a year to try and figure that stuff out. So you're in this idea that during the pandemic, when almost all of the world retreated, right,
Yeah.
and or like in our case here in Los Angeles specifically, like we had very, very rigid lockdown requirements, right, and that was a good thing, but it was also very jarring. And so no one was going anywhere, although I would go, and we were told here the hours you could go, and then we had to have the spacing, and they would only let so many people into the market, right? Like, and so that was your one escape, like, was I could get out of the apartment, I'm going to go to my supermarket and I'm going to shop for the things I need, whatever's left on the shelves, for an hour, and I'm going to
Yes.
feel like I'm going to feel normal again before I go back and take it into my house. And so I had to try and discover and experiment with all these different products. But it's just fascinating to think that around the time that I was doing that here as a consumer, you guys were standing at a grocery market in Portugal somewhere, looking at the aisles, the same aisles that I was looking at, but thinking about them completely differently.
Yeah.
This is the Tiago. This is the classic definition of when I say entrepreneurial thinking, right? Is that you were
Yeah.
looking at a very commonplace thing, but you were thinking about it in a completely novel way that I or most people wouldn't think about it when they stand there. Tiago, take this next one for me if you can. Like, so we talked about, right, the CPG industry, and thank you, Diogo, for saying that. That's consumer packaged goods for people that aren't familiar with that term. So the food products industry, to me, it seems pretty industrialized, right? And it seems kind of, and again, maybe I'm wrong. You guys, Tiago, you can take this and tell me. Like, it seems like it's ultimately in the hands of a very small group of kind of mega corporate brands, right? And so as a bootstrapped entrepreneur, how did you guys, now we understand why you decided to do what you did, but how do you guys think differently about just cracking that market, just existing, right? Forget getting to the US, that's later, but just existing and coming into that industry space when that shelf that you looked at even though there might be 100 brands, probably they're owned by 7 different companies. So how did you face that challenge?
Well, you're absolutely right, Rob. If you go to any category inside a supermarket, you will stumble across maybe 2 or 3 companies controlling the whole shelf. So that is a truth. We were lucky enough not to realize that back at the time. So we usually say that we're not brave. I mean, we just lack a lot of consciousness, and we just happen to go into it. But the lessons that we learned over the last few years was, I mean, the main lesson is it is possible to crack it. Okay, it is possible to crack it, especially if you understand what your business is. And I would say that there are two. If I had to rank it, I would say that there are 2 things that are very important for a CPG founder to understand if he wants to go against, let's put it this way, against a big corp. And the first one is, well, CPG founders nowadays, they usually tend to differentiate themselves in the better for you segment. So usually when somebody starts a food startup, it's usually low in sugars, low in calories, high in protein, it's vegan, it's no gluten, whatever type of functionalities you can come across with. But one of the mistakes that we made in person and realized is by going through it, but it's very important is to understand what are the drivers of your category. And up to this day, and I haven't found yet a category that this isn't the rule, is flavor is still the king. So flavor is more important than functionalities. And as founders, when we're developing the product and thinking about what our value proposition, we're often so into the functionalities that we want to offer that we might sacrifice the most important thing, which is, flavor. And I'd say that's, if you want to be a mass market product, and using this expression, I mean, so making a product that everyone can use, not only the ones who have some, people who can eat lactose or are gluten intolerant, whatever. I mean, you really need to get the flavor right, and you need to be very critical about it, because, I mean, Diogo and I, we used to kid that there are 3 levels of flavors. So there's a product in which you taste and you say this isn't good, so I'm not eating this again, right? But then there's the product that you eat and you say this is very good. But there's a difference between the product that you taste and you say this is very good, and the product that you taste and that you know that you'll repeat it. It's a very, it's a very,
so
thin line.
It's not this wide difference. It's more of a very small space.
Yeah. It's a very thin line, but you need to get that right. And I mean, when we started, we were so focused on the functionalities of the product. We wanted to make a product with low sugars, low calories, high in protein, everything, but also no flavor. So we had to pivot at some point in time to get, to prioritize taste over the functionalities. We still offer the value proposition, but one key aspect of our product is we started to launch products that instead of saying 90% less sugars, it says 70% less sugar. So this move, the consumer still sees it as a big sugar reduction, but it helps us on the R&D side to create products that are tastier and that can compete with the market leaders. And then the second lesson that we learned is, well, we need to focus on our own path, and we need to focus on creating our own relationship with the consumers. So consumers are the one who decides who the market leader is. They trust the brands with their money accordingly. And so if we walk that path correctly and we don't look a lot to what the competition is doing, but more focusing on what we're doing as a brand, what we're offering our customers, where can we get better, either on the product, either on the value proposition, either in the type of ads or branding that we do, so that they can feel connected with us, then we might have a chance. You understand? So that's basically the approach that we have. And of course, I mean, then there's more specific things. So
we'll dive into a bunch of the other layers of it. I'm curious, real quick kind of framework for everybody that's listening. What countries is the product sold in currently?
Portugal and the United States.
Okay, so Portugal and the US. Okay, so
Yeah.
that frames up my next question then, actually, which is, are there? I assume there are, but again, you're the experts, right? So are there fundamental differences in how you build and market a CPG branded product in, say, Portugal or the EU versus in the US? I mean, I know it sounds obvious, but
No,
help us understand that, right?
they are so huge. I can start. I can say one, and Tiago will develop, and then we go back and forth. What do you think about it,
Okay,
Tiago?
yeah,
I
go
think
for
it's a
it.
good one. I guess one of the fundamental differences, and it's so funny because even in Portugal, we, and that's an honest opinion of mine, but even in Portugal, I don't know if we talk about it that so much that we should talk about it. Okay,
Okay,
as much as we should talk about it. So one of the fundamental differences for us, and I think that nowadays or today it's actually better. But okay, so when you start in the US and we listened a bunch of podcasts with many entrepreneurs and you the first thing that you learn is start with a niche, start
okay,
with a niche, and that's and that is the first truth. Like you start small with a niche product, and then you with the segment, and then you segment to that product and targeting for that product, and then you start expanding and expanding with a couple of years. The difference in Portugal is that we are only 10 million people.
right,
So if you go that niche, you don't have a business.
right, yeah,
And that difference is such a huge difference in the daily operations and marketing and critical thinking and entrepreneurial thinking that you think. Because when we started, we said, okay, you start with a niche product, and we go to a local grocery bio grocery store that is small, and then you sell like 10 pints in a month,
right.
and you don't sell anything. And then
You'll appreciate this, Diogo. I lived for about a little over a year in Chile,
okay,
in South America, in a previous life over the last 10 years prior to the podcasting life, and I was involved in the entrepreneurial economy there, and I would often encounter the same thing and see and say the same things to Chilean entrepreneurs, right? So Chile, I think, is, and Chileans are going to kill me. I'm going to get it wrong. I think like about 17 or 18 million people, something like that. But really, it's 9-10 million people in Santiago, and then a bunch of people out in the middle of nowhere, right? And
okay,
so the entire economy is Santiago, right?
yes,
But by and large, and
yes,
so oftentimes you'd see young entrepreneurs or any age, but you'd see early stage entrepreneurs get caught in that trap, right? Between like obvious the need to try and solve the problem or solve for the opportunity in your local market before you go global,
yes,
but then they would get so caught up in the trap of that local market that
yeah,
they would literally build a business that couldn't go global.
yes.
So that's what you're
And
saying. You became aware of that very early on.
yeah, and then in Portugal, when you start something, you need to start it to the 10 million people already. Like, we don't have the Whole Foods with enough traction to sell a bunch of pints. We don't
Right.
have the local grocery stores that are big enough, and they are chains of local grocery. You don't have that. Or you go big,
Right.
or you go home. And that is very funny because today I think it's a good thing, because we needed to start with a very good mainstream approach for the Portuguese country.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the biggest driver is flavor. Okay, maybe for that niche segment isn't flavor, but we need to do it with the flavor, because we need to go mainstream since the day one. And I guess it's my own opinion. It was actually a shortcut, because we build it around the majority of people, and then okay, it's flavor. We couldn't use the 90%. We need to go to 70% less sugars because of the flavor. We need to do trade marketing as the B Corps do, because you need to do it because you don't have any other option. You need to
Right.
do demos as the B Corps do. You need to invest in marketing as B Corps do, because you don't have any other options. So, or you go out of business. So yeah, can you tell me another one, Tiago?
No, Tiago, I have a follow on, and this it kind of just let's pull this a little bit further, right? So So two-part question: was expansion into the U.S. market like instantly your goal from like the minute that you guys started thinking about this? And then related, you can tackle this any way you like. Like, why not Spain? Why not Germany? Why not the UK? And then the US?
Well, it would be certainly easier to go into Spain or into France or into the UK. So it's just across the street, as you used to say.
Right.
We don't have to go across the ocean to sell the product, and maybe it would be easier to just go into Europe and try to do it here in Europe. But I mean, since day one that Diogo and I, we decided that, I mean, we wanted to build a brand in the United States.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the main goal. Well, we don't have regrets. We're very happy on how things turned out. But if we were to say one mistake that we make in our company was to start it in Portugal instead of starting it right away in the United States.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is that is because, well, the United States, even though it's a country, it's more like a continent, right? Yeah. And it's more like a continent with some particular interesting things for our business in specific. But some of those are, well, the ice cream that we sell, the format, it's called American Pint. So it's in the name, so it's an American pint. It's a very American thing. So it's within the culture of an American to eat an ice cream pint while watching TV. And that's very important, for at least for us. And then there are two things that for me are brilliant about the United States. The first one is you don't have to change languages or to change nutrition facts or anything else, right. So it's a one size fits all. Yeah. And there are no barriers. So if you deal, for instance, with Whole Foods, you can, with just one person, get the product across the whole United States. While here in Portugal, here in Europe, there are a lot of chains, European chains, who are present in many countries, but it's different people. So it requires on our side a different type of effort.
You get into Aldi, and then all of a sudden you have to have Aldi in Spanish, Aldi in German, Aldi in French, Aldi in Hungarian. Okay.
Exactly.
Which are equivalent kind of to states in the United States.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But yes, but also with a particular thing that would also affect the way we market our product, because I mean, everybody in Portugal, or a lot of people in Portugal knows about Swee, but if we go to Spain, nobody knows it. Because it's a different country with different rules, with a different system, with different languages, and so we would have to start it all over again in 28 different countries.
Right.
So
whereas you can come to the US where no one knew your name either, but once you're here and then you get someone to know your name, then you can just build on that without having to reinvent branding, language, process, technical stuff, probably even like governmental regulatory issues related to disclosures and how you present the nutritious information. All those things probably change. Yeah. Amazing.
And regarding the marketing, it's completely different. Regarding the marketing, like market a product in Portugal is very different than marketing a product in Spain, than market a product in France. And you need to be local, and you need to know the culture, and you need to know how people think about it in that specific country. And in the United States, it's like the same language, the same culture, with some difference, but you are all fellows, and that's very different. That is very huge. You are all fellows. A guy.
No, here it might be. Here it might be what I would describe, and not even just about CPGs, just in general culture, right? It might be. There are regional variations, right, of certain aspects of our culture. You even heard me say it when I was talking about my own profile, right? Yes. I grew up. It's very common in the U.S. to say like, "Well, I grew up in the Midwest," right? Yes. Or I grew up, or I was born and raised on the East Coast, or I'm a West Coast person, or I'm from the South, right? Like, so those are kind of cultural variations, which then have some affiliations in the case of your industry with like food preferences, or how we eat, or what we eat, or are we fitter or healthier or less fit or less healthy, or the cultural nuances. But as you say, your materials, your product, your branding, your mix of ingredients, whatnot, can stay the same, right? You could just decide to say like, oh, but we can obviously sell all of our products in California, because California is a market that like really responds to this type of product placement or this type of branding or the healthier alternative stuff. but then we could just sell like a more generic mix of our products in this particular region of the country where they care less about that stuff. They just want good value for the cost, for
Yes,
the taste. So
exactly.
interesting. That's fascinating. And it does make sense. I mean, like I said, the question was kind of obvious, but I was also there's nuance to everything, right? So,
Yeah.
what were in either of you can take this? What were some of the biggest misconceptions or surprises that you faced as you entered this? We'll call it the better for you ice cream market.
I'd say that the biggest misconception about the better for you space, and I might repeat myself, and I apologize for that, but it's really about the importance that the functionalities have in the purchasing decision moment. So uh, as I said, so as founders, we're in a bubble. We try to get the best functionalities ever, and it comes from the best place in our hearts. We really want to try and innovate in a way that to bring into the customer something that he never saw before. But we tend to forget on the two most important drivers of the category: flavor, as I said, and price.
Yeah.
And so that was indeed the biggest misconception that we have, as well as the how hard it would be to convince people to actually try a product. Because,
Yeah.
and I will tell this story pretty quick. When we started, so we had our ice cream with 90% less sugars. It was vegan. The taste wasn't amazing, but nevertheless, people didn't know about it because they have never tried it. But we decided to enter the market and pricing the ice cream very, very cheap. We were like, let's try to get the barriers down for people to try it out. So let's put the product cheap on the shelves. We did that, and something very interesting happened. Is like people look at the product and saw, well, how can a brand say that this tastes amazing, has low calories, low sugar, it's vegan, and it's cheaper? I mean, they're lying to me somewhere,
Right.
So we
Right, because
understood.
it's typically right higher end product, right? It's a niche, as you say, it's a niche product. It's a healthier product. It's a better for you product, right? So and oh, by the way, and it tastes good. Like this is going to be maybe the wrong word, but this is going to be like a premium product, right? And I'm willing to pay that because I want the associated benefits. I want the feeling. I want the brand perception of all those things that come with it, right? But I'll pay a premium. You guys are saying if we could deliver you all those profiles
Yeah.
plus less expensive, people are like, that's bullshit. Like
Yeah.
That happened.
that can't
So
be real.
we actually had to increase the price, and our sales started growing. Like
Yes.
people started to buy more as we got the price up, and to a certain point, of
I
course.
mean, what a great surprise or misconception, right? I mean, like
Yes.
that's one. This whole idea, as we all get taught in our entrepreneurial, programming, right? The pricing elasticity, right? And
Yes.
the fact that
Exactly.
sometimes cheap is not better,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't connote what you think it does, right? And it doesn't. To Diogo, I love your language around the decision making patterns of the consumers, like what drives those decisions.
Yes.
It's not always what we think it would be because we think as consumers. I think as entrepreneurs, I think sometimes too much. We think of like how I would perceive it, right, or how I
Yes.
would, or I would or would not spend my own money, right?
Yeah.
And that's as you guys have clearly articulated. That's not the lesson you learned. Okay, big picture question, Diogo. Why don't you take this one and run with it for a bit? This is your commercial. Tell us about what is Swee for the person who isn't listening. We now understand. We know what you make, but like just talk to us about the company, kind of in its current maybe snapshot. Like this is how big we are. This is where we are. This is where we're selling. And then either or both of you talk to me about the vision. Talk to me about what is the next year look like? What is the next 5 years? What's the vision for this? The ultimate vision eventually.
Ooh, okay.
So this is kind of your commercial.
Yeah, okay. That's a tough one. So Sui right now we started 3 years ago, just the two of us, and right now we are a startup with 7 people. We are 7 currently, and right now we are at the biggest and the major retailers in Portugal, and we did it with spending €0 in marketing. Okay, yeah, like we were one of the top brands selling in the supermarkets in the last year, 2024, and it was all about TikTok, social media, and being close to the people, to the consumer,
Okay.
in a very honest way. So, for you to have an idea, we live stream about 4 to 6 hours a day, okay, where people see us working and do the things that like flyers, commercials, designs, everything around our brand. People get involved, and I think right now we as founders learned a very cool thing in the last year, that it was people really do care about what you have to say, as the people behind the brand nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's
Very
very
important.
cool.
Much more important than it ever
Yeah,
was, probably.
yeah. So in the United States, we started, and we are a very, very, very small brand in the United States. We started like a year ago, baby steps. We are a small team, 42 markets. So yeah,
Wow.
and and we right now, I would say, and using a comparison, and because I know you like soccer,
I
using a
do.
comparison like a soccer comparison, I would say that in Portugal, Swee is the 16, 17-year-old guy, a young talent that is like he plays in like a mid-table team,
Right.
and everybody looks at him and say, okay, this guy could be huge. Okay, this guy has talent, has potential.
He's like that up and coming 22-year-old
Yes,
that's
yes,
playing at Benfica or Sporting,
yeah,
but
exactly.
he's eventually going to wind up getting signed
Yeah,
by Liverpool.
exactly, exactly.
Or in the coaching circuit, he's the Ruben Amorim of
Yes,
ice cream.
yeah, exactly. It's like nowadays in Portugal, we are like that young talent that Liverpool
Okay.
would send the people to
The
say, okay, I
scouts to
like
come
this
see.
guy.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like this
right.
guy.
Okay.
Okay. In the United States, we are the 60-year-olds kids that has the posters in the bedroom and say, one day I want to be that guy, you
Yeah.
know? And that's, I think, a very honest
No, that's but
comparison
also by the
of
way, a
the
beautiful metaphor. That's a great way to
yeah
describe it.
of the two stages. Like in Portugal, we are the guy that, okay, I can feel this guy could be huge and could win a Ballon d'Or. In the United States, we are the kid that dreams about it, and the
Yeah.
dreams that every night when they lay down on the bed and say, one day it's gonna be me.
I
And
could,
yeah,
and I'll thread that out. Like I could be a professional,
yes,
which in next case would like we have the potential. We might be,
yes,
we can play on the pitch, but we might be capable of making a business out of this in the U.S.
yes,
that is
yes,
truly sustainable, that can expand. Because
yes,
to be clear, no small accomplishment, right? Small Portuguese brand, as you say, in the mid table of the soccer player
yes,
analogy, that is in 42 markets in the US and selling in Whole Foods, which again, right? Like I mean, not a tiny little local regional grocer, right?
yeah.
I mean, Whole Foods is Whole Foods, right? And so that's quite an accomplishment in and of itself.
Just correcting this, we're not yet at Whole Foods,
Okay,
but
sorry.
that's but that's all right. We're in California, for instance, where you are. You can now find us at Bristol Farms, and then we
Ah,
are
okay.
also available in
Sorry.
Texas and New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, equivalent. Bristol Farms, a national
Yes.
chain, right? That is kind of positioned itself as like a boutique market, almost, that is very sustainable business. They're not going anywhere. They've been around for decades. They will be around for decades unless they merge with somebody else, right? So that is quite the accomplishment. But again, testing, trying, targeting, trying to get into the Whole Foods, trying to get into the Erewhons, or
Yes.
I would imagine even the bigger, more mainstream conglomerates, right? The Krogers or the whatever,
Albertsons,
Kroger's and
yeah.
Albertsons, yeah, which thankfully is still going to be two grocery stores instead of one,
Yeah.
thanks to the government. Because if it was one, it would have been terrible for us consumers. But that's a whole other podcast. You guys, thank you for that. And let's the last part of it. What's the vision from a business standpoint? I have to ask this, right, because it seems obvious to me. I talked to a lot of young entrepreneurs that the battle is always we're undercapitalized, we don't have enough resources. Even successful stories like you guys, where you are growing from revenue, which is the dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
You haven't built this on the backs of a lot of leveraged venture capital debt and whatnot. Yet I'm sitting here drinking out of a cup from one of the most prominent venture capitalists for the CPG industry in the U.S. every episode because these are my friends here in Los Angeles. And so, like, how have we bootstrapped this from revenue? Are we taking in investors? Are the investors angels and friends and family, or are we at that institutional round level where we say, okay, we're really going to have to seek out some serious capital partners?
Yeah. So
What?
yeah, so we bootstrapped this 3 years ago, and for the first 2 years, I'd say it was just the two of us. After 2 years, we reached a point in which we understood, okay, we got the principles right, so we know that better for you space is a good space to be in. We know that the flavor matters, so we got to take care of that. Now we feel like we need help to scale. But Diogo and I were not the typical founders who go out and just going from round to round and just being immersive in that. We decided, let's try to find a strategic partner who can grow with us and be with us along the way, so we can focus on what's more important in our business, which is sell ice cream. That's for us, that's always been the goal. Not fundraising, not anything else, just sell more ice cream every day.
Okay.
And so here in Portugal, we got to close an investment around a year and a bit ago with the biggest food F&B group here in Portugal, so Delta Cafés. They're the biggest coffee seller here in Portugal. They're present all over Europe, and they were the ones that are our investors, and they've been helping us to stabilize the company and give us enough time to scale it to the next level, so that Diogo and I can focus on getting into the consumer, getting into new markets, or in this case, new US states, making sure that we get the principles and the fundamentals of the business right, because that's, at the end of the day, what we love to do. We love to sell ice cream, and that's what we do. Yeah.
I love this. I love both the honesty and the simplicity of that, and the fact that when capital has come in, and I would imagine when capital comes in the future, it's coming in to drive specific growth achievements.
Yes,
right. So it's
exactly.
literally it's if you give us this money, we're going to be able to turn it into this many more stores, this many more markets, this many more pints sold, this much more revenue. Right. So
Yes.
it's not it's better, and I'm a founder advocate, right? So it's better leverage for you as the entrepreneurs, as opposed to having to mortgage all the leverage to the investors in the earliest days simply to exist. So kudos to you on that front. But I wanted to give you guys a chance to talk about that, because there are lots of investors that listen to this show, and there are a couple who know that I'm interviewing you today, who are literally going to watch this episode in the next couple of weeks when we release it, because they are curious, right? Because you guys are already doing the hard, smart thing, right? Which is to focus on, hey, we love selling ice cream. Like that's we are ice cream salesmen. Like that's our business, right? And that's a beautiful thing to hear.
And I think it's the best way to get approaches from VCs. Like we thought about it, like when we started, we saw so many entrepreneurs like with backpacks at events, at shows and talks and every single thing, like pitching, invest in my brand, invest in my brand. And we thought about it, man, if we do our job right, that is selling ice cream, I make a huge bet that they will knock on our doors, because it's their job to find these good startups.
100% true.
And we never went after any type of investment or anything, because we said since the day one, we're gonna get the investment by selling ice cream, not by going knocking doors.
Good for you.
Thank you.
It reminds me. I'll tell you a quick story. It reminds me a lot when I spent so much time working and traveling around South America, Argentinian entrepreneurs in particular. This is not to besmirch anybody else in the region, but they've all heard me tell the story 1,000 times. Argentinian entrepreneurs, I always said the difference between them, just like instinctively, like you guys, what I'm hearing from you two, and say entrepreneurs in every other country in South America or even Mexico, the first instinct of an Argentine entrepreneur is to wake up and sell something to someone for money. Like that, like Argentinians are
survival.
Argentina. It's born of survival instinct post World War II. It's born of just a cultural
economics.
It's all of these things mixed together, right? And I've always said they're the most focused, natural salespeople as entrepreneurs that I've ever met outside of Americans. Which, because in America, it's just part of the culture, right?
Yes.
So you guys are now. I'm hearing a lot of that kind of Argentinian approach
Thank
to
you.
it, which is awesome. I mean, it's meant as the highest compliment, because
Thank you.
ultimately at the end of the day, your thesis is correct. Both of you is, if you sell it, they will come.
Yeah.
Right. That
That's the thing.
and again, back to the leverage comment from a couple of minutes ago, then you'll have a better, stronger position sitting at the
Yeah.
table. Right. Which is ultimately what you want. I want to talk just briefly before we kind of get to the closing sections here in a bit. But I mean, the story of 7 years ago, we meet at the gym because you just decide
Yeah.
like Diogo, you're like, I need
That's
a
so
spotter.
stupid.
I need a spotter today.
That's
right?
so stupid.
And Tiago's like, I'm just here with my headphones on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It plays as very kind of accidental, obviously friends, but accidental entrepreneurs. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm curious. There's a couple of things I want to pull apart here, but the first layer is just, what were both of you separately, what were you doing in your lives, or early careers at that moment? Were you still in university? Were you out of university, in your early day jobs? Like, what were you doing in your life paths? And were you individually thinking like, I'm going to become an entrepreneur someday, or I'm going to be an accountant? Tiago, you go first.
Okay. So it's an accidental. I am an accidental entrepreneur because I was studying management at the time, and as any management student, all the conversations we used to have with my group of friends was, which bank am I going to try to get in? Which
Right.
consultancy company? Which investment fund? And is everything right with that? So we just made the mistake to open our first company, because then you find a passion that it's very unique, in the way of working and seeing the world, that it's very special. And so, I got into entrepreneurship by accident, but I stayed because I really loved it.
No, I love it. Diogo, what were you doing?
So I had a different path all the way from Tiago. If you know each other, we will see that we are like so
Total
different.
opposites.
Total
if
opposites.
you had not gone up to him to get a spotter that day in the gym, there's no way otherwise you guys would be in the same circles or run in the same trajectory in Lisbon. Okay.
For you to have an idea, so I wasn't studying, okay, because I'm a college dropout.
Yep.
So I wasn't studying, and since the beginning of my life, I knew that I wouldn't like to work for someone.
Okay.
Okay, I always found myself like creating things and playing video games with open worlds where I wouldn't care about the main quest. I would like I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna going around, and in that specific time, that is actually funny because I was like having a artist career, so I was like how would I say it, Tiago? Like
A singer.
yeah, I was a singer in Portugal, more in the like rap pop.
Yeah. So in the
style.
you have our musical talents.
Yeah. I was in the musical background. I was doing like TV shows and doing a little bit of acting, but I was like inside of me, I knew that I wanted to create something different.
Okay.
I wanted to create something mine, and I always had a passion about brands. So it was like,
because you understood the connectivity between brands and the people, the community.
Yeah, I didn't understood. I just felt it. I don't know why. Okay.
Yeah. No, maybe you didn't understand like the technical mechanics that he was learning in his management classes. But fundamentally, you understood, and I'll put these words in your mouth if it's not correct. You correct me, but you understood the feeling that happens between an audience and a rapper on stage or a musician on stage when there's just that good vibe. So that's brand.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly.
I mean, that's not the science of it, but that's as you two have said repeatedly, that's the humanity of it.
Yeah, man.
Right? And ultimately, a great musician or a podcast or a television show or a band or a poet, like an artist, that's a product. Yeah. Right. I mean, that and in traditional sense, and you guys understood that. That's amazing. I love that. Diogo, you may get a kick out of this. I have said for 15 years or more, and I've said this on hundreds and hundreds of stages around the entrepreneurial world, is that I fundamentally believe that entrepreneurship and the path being an entrepreneur is much closer. And I think this is like a massive misconception of both entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, as well as it is as how we teach entrepreneurship. I think fundamentally the path of an entrepreneur is wildly closer to the path of a poor, starving artist than it is to the path of a corporate CEO.
True.
And yet we market it as Tiago, you should go become the next Musk or the next Bezos or the next, and all the speakers that we consume and all the blog posts and all the podcasts is like, I'm going to listen to that guy who runs a $100 billion company with 20 million employees. And I'm going to build our company like that. And the truth is, and I compliment you because I think you two have found this. And Tiago, you obviously have grown beyond your path that you were on, is that you're much more like what you're doing at Swee is much more akin to a garage band that then plays locally, that then gets a little bit of a following on some college campuses, that then all of a sudden there's word of mouth and you can book a new gig in another university campus because the other people had you at the other one. And the next thing you know, it's like everybody knows you and you're this band that takes off. So, but also you're the starving artist who's like eating ramen and eating your own ice cream to, when you don't have money for dinner, and you can love that life. Right, the starving artists are the ones in the world who famously always say, like, I would do this for free.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
And ultimately, you guys are attacking the CPG, the massive global corporate CPG industry, with that same level of heart. And you're using the tools of the day, of your era, of your generation's era, the TikToks, the podcasts, the social media. You're using those. Yeah, you're using those technology platforms, which there are always technology platforms in every generation. You're using yours to connect to your, my words, your audience, right? Like your followers, the fans of Swee, right? As if Swee was Nirvana or Beyonce or something, right? Like, and that's incredible because, I mean, think of the great movements and moments of human energy and progress that have happened throughout history, like since we crawled out of caves. Right. I mean, it's a person or people or a group of people creating something that connects to other people so emotionally on such a human level that they would be like Grateful Dead fans who will still follow Grateful Dead cover bands around, even though the main Grateful Dead guys have been dead for 20 years. Right. And there are people that dedicate their entire, so, to develop that level of fandom. And again, obviously we're being illustrative, right? But develop that level of fandom in a consumer brand is the magic that can unlock it all. And I have to ask this one last question before we get to our closing segment question, which is a bit of advice for our listeners. But this one last question I'm just curious about, right? Like, so I don't know if this is true in other cultures necessarily as much as it is in America, but in the US culture, it's always been true. And I'm old enough, so this very much used to be truer. People, as you say, like, don't go to work with your friends, right? Like, don't take money from your family. Don't go to work with your friends or family, like, because that's the easiest way to ruin your life and ruin all your relationships, right? You guys weren't friends. I mean, you were literal strangers 7 years ago that day at that fitness center, right? But obviously you had become very close friends. What is it like? I won't put to say your best friends, but like, what is it like working with one of your best friends every day?
Well, I would say that there are two things that are necessary to make it work. And the first one, and we've never told this to anybody, we have a third co-founder, which is called PlayStation. This is very important, because all of a sudden you come from something into other thing in which you're all about work and you just talk about work and you have the problems and everything. So having the PlayStation, which is for us the leisure time in which we get together and we get to hang out and just still having fun together, that is very important to this day. So we still play a lot of PlayStation whenever we have the time, and then also to have the fundamentals right again. So we know, I mean, there are sometimes we fight, but we always know that we're just defending what we think is best for the brand. And as long as you don't take it personally and you know that the person on the other side is just expressing himself in a way in what he believes it's best for the brand, then somewhere in time you'll get to a point of consensus and you'll move forward into the next fight and the next fight and also the next achievement, because that also creates a very strong bond, like because when you have accomplishments and you conquer things, it's very good to share. But when things go wrong, you can't look any other way other to your founder, to your co-founder, so you can rely on him, to help you go through the tough times. That's also important. So it unites you more, in my opinion, more than it separates it. As long as you respect, in my opinion, these three things.
I love that. No, communication, right? It's the hallmark of great relationships. I always say the founder co-founder relationship, especially at the stage you guys are at, 7, 8, entering into that period of time, years together. It's a marriage. I mean, or it is a long-term relationship, right?
Yeah.
And it has its own level of romance for a whole bunch of different reasons, right? And it's a different kind of romance, but it does have some of the hallmark foundational pieces of just a fundamental relationship. And what is great relationship advice other than just to over communicate, to lead with love, to be open-minded, to believe that even when you're disagreeing, it's because the other person shares the same end goal as you, right?
Yes.
But you may have different views on how to get there, and be open to listen to that. That's incredible, just human advice. A quick question we didn't mention, and then we're going to hit the last question, let you guys get out of here, because it's your evening time in Portugal. So I'm super appreciative of the fact that you joined me here in my morning on the West Coast. 5 years from now in the US, are we in Whole Foods, in Erewhon, in Kroger, in Albertsons, selling millions and millions of pints a year or a month or whatever, however you measure it? Or have we had a big run and then we sell out and it's Swee owned by Nestle?
Okay. Okay, I can answer that one. So, in being truly honest with you, Rob, we know that if we or when we get to that size and we fight and we cry and we laugh every single day to achieve that state, we know that in the if we want the brand to succeed, the best way to do it is to being ready to be bought
Okay.
from a big corp.
Yep.
And that's it's like an exit strategy, let's put it that way, that we have, and we know that, but we because we know that Goliath thing is very good until a point. Okay, so and the best way to grow the brand is inevitably one day being ready to be boss. But we know that if we can, or if we to have that single 1% chance of being bought from Nestle or wherever, we need to get up every single day thinking, okay, I'm gonna be 30 years into this business.
Yeah. And
I'm
and
gonna
and
I'm never
and
gonna sell it.
and as you guys have said, just wake up and say the way we give ourselves that chance at some point in the future
Yeah,
is by
is
waking
to
up today and just
it's by waking.
selling some
Yeah,
ice cream.
and like it's like we know that the best way for us to do it is like in a couple of years or 5, 10 years being bought, but to have that chance we need to think that we will never sell our company and this is our brand and let's make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and sell millions and millions and millions because we're never gonna sell it, but
Right.
we know
No, of
that.
course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's and it's funny. It's just a shout out to my friend Monica Campos from Mexico City, because she is the Latin American, kind of North American head of innovation, programming, investment for Nestle. So
Oh,
she's
okay.
she's a former as we call you guys now. You're not guests of the show; you become alumni of the show.
Okay.
Because this is a community of people, and so Monica is a
Awesome.
former alum. Monica is an alumni of the
Thank
show,
you
and
for
she's a
that.
great friend. So that was why I thought of Nestle. All right, so last question, and you guys can divide this up or take it however you want it. Let's leave our audience of potentially young CPG company founders or people who have a product idea. Let's leave them with a little bit of advice. So what might be like 2 or 3 pieces of guidance or advice for any entrepreneur who's trying to figure out how to stand out with their brand or their product in what the rest of us might perceive to be like a really oversaturated market, right? So whether it's coffee or ice cream or I don't know, chicken product, like whatever it might be, right? And then any product, cereal, like when they stand in the grocery store, like you guys did, and they look at those aisles and they think, "Oh my God, how can I ever succeed here?" Right? Like, what are 2 or 3 pieces of advice for that entrepreneur to focus on to compete in that market?
Well, I'd say that the best piece of advice that I can give to CPG founders who are starting out is, I mean, at the end of the day, you're serving the consumer, right? So it's in the name, CPG. So, and for that, I would say that there are 3 things that are very important for you to take into consideration. So the first one, and we've talked about this, it's the flavor. You need to get the flavor right and then the functionality. So be very critic if you can add value, not only to differentiate ourselves through functionalities, but especially in flavor, if you can do a better job than the brands that are currently in the market. And then, and Diogo talked about it, and you as well, Rob, about humanity. So the proximity is something that is very close. Again, it's all about consumers. So people do care about what you have to say. Diogo said that he's a living proof of that through the work that he did here in Portugal. And then, of course, consumer.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. It's simple. It's not as complicated as we tend to make it, right? In this, you could look at this market or any market in any product and overcomplicate it as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as an investor. Think about all the nuances and all the pieces. And all I just heard you really say is think about the people that you're creating this product for, make it taste really, really good.
Yeah.
And then just adapt and adjust to what they want.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, that's wow.
That's how we roll. Yeah.
That's freaking awesome, guys. I got to tell you, an absolute pleasure. I will tell the audience because they don't know what we talked about before the show. Just a quick shout out to our teammate here at the Storytellers Company, Ana Paula Tenorio Barrio, who has worked with me now for like 3.5, almost 4 years, from Mexico City, but she lives and works in Portugal. And randomly, as random can be, Tiago and Diogo's team reached out and found us, not knowing that Ana Paula was part of our team. And then when I reached out and told Ana Paula that they had booked to be on the show with me, she was like, "I know those guys." so in this weird, and then they've seen them recently. So in this very weird, big, crazy world that we live in, which is so, 8 billion of us on the planet spread all over this globe. The reality is you're never more, if you're, it's a great lesson to be good to people, right? And it's also a great lesson to build great relationships with good people, because you're really never more than 1 or 2 people away from some of the most incredible, thoughtful, ambitious, but humble entrepreneurial thinkers that you could ever come across. And so I'm grateful for you guys. I'm really thankful. I've learned a lot. And I also just am fed off your energy. It's been an incredibly challenging week recently here in Los Angeles with what's been going on with the fires. But for me to get up on a Monday morning and to be able to have this conversation with you guys was personally really, really powerful and helpful. And I know that our entrepreneurial thinking audience is going to be fascinated by your story and is going to be all trying to figure out how to get to Bristol Farms or in their neighborhoods to go, or going to be begging their local market to carry your products. So maybe it'll be some of our listeners and watchers who will help get your products into some of these big markets over here in the US. And I'm super stoked that when this is over, I'm going to go open my door, and I bet there's a delivery sitting outside my door. So if there is, I'll tell you this, I'll do the preview clip for this episode. I'll do it with the product in my hand if I can.
Awesome.
If I can. It was a pleasure, guys. It was really, really a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure for us too. Thank you so much for having us, Rob.
Thank you so much.
No worries. All right. Quick last question. How can people find you, follow you? You mentioned TikTok, right? Where can we find or follow the company on social media or on the web? And then where can we find or follow you individually if you'd like that?
That's simple. For follow us on TikTok or at Instagram, Swee.Creamery. Okay? That is the US TikTok and the US Instagram. That's that battle would be like a whole new podcast just for you to the
So we're not
battle
going
of
to.
the algorithm.
Well, I'll have you back in a couple
And
weeks after we find out what's going on with TikTok.
And regarding the personal profiles, mine is Diogo Valente on LinkedIn, and Tiago is Tiago Rebelo on LinkedIn as well, and Swee Creamery on LinkedIn as well, if you want to follow.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. As always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show was recorded here in Los Angeles and produced by the incomparable Deanna Bernal in Mexico City. You know, we can only grow this show by you listening and sharing the show with friends. So please find, like, follow, subscribe, and share our audio-only show on Spotify, Apple, or via any other popular podcasting platforms, as well as find the video version of our show now available on our YouTube channel over at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And of course, you can follow along on our various social media platforms for fun and informative clips and content at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, wherever you can find us. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at I Am Rob Ryan on just about any social media platform. Gracias, thank you, and have an awesome day.